Folks, with me today is Arthur Piccolo, and he's the chairperson of the Bowling Green Association in New York City. And he comes to us today with an important issue, which we all need to support him for, because this has to do with another statue, another explorer. It's not Columbus. Instead, it's Giovanni di Verrazzano, who discovered New York City, 1524. So therefore, it's his 500th anniversary, and we have a beautiful statue of his, right, Arthur? In Battery Park.
Absolutely, magnificent.
It's a beautiful statue, and it's just covered in construction material.
Yep.
And Arthur, you want to free that statue up temporarily and let it be shown in the Bowling Green area where you have dominion, so people can see it for the 500th anniversary.
Yes.
So here it is. So tell us what we should do. Do you think?
Well, let me start with some background here.
Absolutely.
Giovanni di Verrazzano did something that no human being had done since the original Americans arrived. First, Homo sapiens coming out of Africa, expanding into what is now Russia. They used a land bridge which existed between Asia and Alaska and began to populate the Americas, beginning in North America and then South America. But up until Giovanni di Verrazzano's incredible epic journey of discovery, no other human being had ever explored North America. What began the development of North America, absolutely, Giovanni di Verrazzano, when he made his epic journey beginning in January of 1524. Let's keep in mind, Columbus and the other explorers before him, they all went to South America and the Caribbean. Not one of them came and explored north of that area. So Giovanni di Verrazzano is a pivotal figure in history. He, in effect, took the first steps that led to the United States and the development of North America. What he did is he began just north of Florida, sailed up the entire North American coast, and everywhere he went, he mapped, kept a very impressive diary. He had numerous contacts with the Native Americans, all of them positive during his entire journey. So he begins basically where South Carolina is today, traveled all the way up, made numerous stops, and along that way, one of the very powerful stops was on April 17th of 1524, when he only had one ship. The rest of his ships that started the journey with him never made it to America. So he came with one ship, and he anchored himself at what we now know as the Narrows, where the Verrazzano Bridge is today. He got in a small boat with a few of his crew, and they came into what he thought was a huge lake. But the Native Americans came out to greet him, and they basically guided him to take his smaller rowboat and to beach it basically right where Bowling Green is today, at the southern tip of Manhattan Island. So he spent a few hours here interacting with the Native Americans. He absolutely would have spent more time, except for the fact that while he was here on April 17, 1524, a major storm started arriving, and he was very worried about getting caught in unknown territory. He wanted to stay ahead of the storm, so he went back to his ship and continued to sail north, explored the rest of the North American East Coast, and then went back to Europe with his maps and his diary, which is well known, well documented. That was the beginning of the exploration of North America. Before we get to the main subject, the irony here is that he made another trip 2 years later, this time going south to South America and the Caribbean, expecting to get the same kind of response that he got all along the North American coast. His first stop and his last stop was where he basically went onto the beach, thinking he was going to have positive interaction with the natives there, who in fact were specifically cannibals. They were a tribe of cannibals. They murdered him right on the beach, boiled the parts of his body, and ate him right in front of most of his crew, which was still on the ship. So, I mean, to put things in perspective, 500 years ago is one of the most important, I would call it the most important beginning of North America, the very first steps to the world we live in today. And it absolutely deserves to be celebrated as a major celebration by all of us, particularly by Italian Americans. Whether or not some consider him the equal of Columbus in his own way, as I do, but he is certainly, if not second to Columbus in importance as an Italian explorer. The statue and the importance of the statue, let's call it a monument. It's a monument.
The monument, right.
The history of the monument is also all important. In 1909, the New York City government and all the major business people had a year-long celebration in 1909 to celebrate the 300th anniversary of Henry Hudson discovering, which of course was complete nonsense. There was no doubt of the fact that Verrazzano, in fact, he used Verrazzano's maps and his diary to guide himself here. Italian Americans, brave Italian Americans. I think the Italian American community was an incredibly discriminated group in 1909.
Right.
We were considered in the same class as African Americans, but Italian Americans got together, led by the publisher of Il Progresso, and raised funds and commissioned a statue by a Sicilian sculptor and had it installed in Battery Park on October 9th and dedicated on October 9th, 1909. It was one of the largest gathering of Italian Americans ever. There was a parade all the way up from Madison Square Park, down Broadway. I've relied on the New York Times report that there were hundreds of thousands of individuals, of course, mostly Italian Americans, involved in this celebrations. That was an epic moment. I think it should be far better known than it is. And it adds tremendous additional importance to the statue and monument, which is very powerful. So we now have this statue, which represents better than anything else the success, the journey, the name of Giovanni da Verrazzano. And now we're approaching the 500th anniversary, this April 17th. By coincidence, a major construction project is now taking place in Battery Park as a result of the Superstorm Sandy and the incredible flooding. Basically, all of Battery Park, along with the seawall, is going to be raised a number of feet. It's a major construction zone now. You can still squeeze into parts of Battery Park, but it's a huge construction zone. The Verrazzano Monument is blocked off by huge plywood construction equipment. It's an inappropriate place for it to be for the 500th anniversary. So I basically started a campaign to make sure that our Italian community, and in fact, all of New York City and hopefully the nation, celebrates the 500th anniversary. And of course, at the center of that celebration, particularly on April 17th, should be the Verrazzano Monument. It cannot be the Verrazzano Monument. It cannot be the Verrazzano Monument at the center of that celebration, as it absolutely should be, if it's barricaded in Battery Park. I have the simple request, and I'm looking for support from the Italian American community and the leadership, that we simply move the monument a few hundred yards across the street from Battery Park to the magnificent large plaza at Bowling Green, which in fact is where Verrazzano stood on April 17th, 1524. Battery Park did not exist. Battery Park is landfill that was created in the early 1800s as the city grew and buildings were emerging. So I have been trying to get the attention of various Italian leaders. Most important, I think, the two most prominent groups, NIAF and Columbus Citizens Foundation. NIAF and Columbus Citizens Foundation. Mm-hmm. So far, no response to them. Who has responded very positively, and in many ways is more important, is Basil Russo, president of the Conference of Italian American Organizations, who's very enthusiastic. But there are key individuals here in New York City. We need, if I go to the mayor, I go to the Parks Commissioner, basically their response, they're going to go to the known leaders in the Italian community, like Columbus Citizens NIAF, and say, hey, do you support this? I'm simply trying to get their support. This should be a defining moment. This is an opportunity for our Italian American community in the 21st century to reassert itself. The 500th anniversary of the discovery of New York City. And so far, it's almost beyond belief that there is not an incredible amount of support to do this. Absolutely can get the statue monument moved, I have no doubt, but it needs the right kind of support. The biggest irony and the biggest appointment of all is that a gentleman named Frank Bisignano, who is the CEO of a major company, but is also a member of the Columbus Citizens Foundation, who was the Grand Marshal of the New York City Columbus Day Parade in 2014, refuses to respond to my request that he, as chair of the Battery Park Conservancy, which controls the park, if he is supportive, it absolutely will get done. He has refused to respond to my numerous requests. Without his support, it's a problem. With his support, I'll do all the legwork and we'll get it done.
What's the he's given you no reason as to why this can't be done, or what's the
Well, first of all, there is no reason. Let's understand, there is no reason it cannot be done. Twice in the past, the monument has been removed from its present location in Battery Park. There's been two major construction projects in the past. In the 1950s, the construction of the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, which resulted in major work at Battery Park, and the statue was removed. Again, in the late 1980s, early 1990s, the park itself was reconstructed and the statue was removed. Of course, the statue can be moved. The point is, why isn't Frank Bisignano interested? Why isn't he even responding? And I think the ultimate goal here has to be to put enough pressure on him that he responds. If he's going to not support it, he needs to be on the record that he's not supporting us doing this in time for April 17th and a grand celebration of the 500th anniversary of this very important day in history.
Now, the construction that's there in Battery Park, that's not going to be completed by April.
It's a 2-year project at least. It's such a big project that they recently installed what literally is a 2-story building for the construction crews. All right, 2 stories of these huge containers. But it's a major, major project, and they're claiming 2 years. It could be longer. I'm not trying to permanently move the statue. There is no issue about it after the construction going back to its other location, even though it's not prominent, it gets very little attention. I still agree that it should go back to the place where our Italian forefathers and mothers put it in 1909. But for now, this not only solves a problem, it's an opportunity. Bowling Green Plaza is one of the most traveled places in the city. All year long, groups of tourists who come to see the Great Italian Bull, Arturo de Modica's charging bull at the other end of the park. They congregate in all year round, and particularly in the warmer weather and the Christmas, you will see that plaza filled. People who would never have any idea that who Verrazzano is, what he did, will all absolutely see and understand that statue. It is the perfect place for it. If I can go to city officials and say that the chair of the Battery Park Conservancy, which the New York City Parks Department has given a contract, they now control it. The city still owns the park, but it is totally under the control of the Battery Park Conservancy. And the #1 person at the Battery Park Conservancy is a powerful, rich Italian-American named Frank Bisignano.
You haven't heard anything from NIAF either, right? Or the Columbus Citizens?
No, I have written to NIAF. I've written to CCF. Angelo Vivolo, who's one of the important former leaders who's still on the board, was front and center when we had the event a year ago, and no response at all. By the way, there is not even a mention of the 500th, at least as of today, on NIAF's site.
For a big celebration there anyway, right? I mean, is New York City planning for a big celebration?
I know the mayor somewhat, and he basically told me point blank, he has given us permission to have a parade from City Hall down Broadway to the Verrazzano Monument on April 17th. He's not going to organize, the city's not going to organize, not going to pay, but he has absolutely given his permission that we have a grand parade with him, one of the people leading it down Broadway from City Hall to Bowling Green.
This could be a really wonderful event for springtime in New York to really celebrate the 500th anniversary. Yeah, it'd be wonderful.
It'd be incredible. I mean, it's an opportunity. It's a great, great, great opportunity for everyone, particularly our Italian. I mean, I call it a defining moment, just like the original statue in 1909 in that story was a defining moment. Imagine if all those thousands of Italian Americans had any idea that for the 500th anniversary, basically many in the Italian community would simply ignore it, and there would not be a great celebration at that monument. It's beyond belief, except that's the situation as of right now.
Yeah, and if they're gonna have any commemoration or celebration, it'd be kind of difficult to be there in this construction material surrounding the statue.
We can't even do anything. You cannot get a permit at all from the Parks Department to do anything in Battery Park. They will not, and I've checked, they will not give any permits until that construction is completed. So we can't even get in the vicinity
You're right.
of the statue and have a celebration? And
Right.
the answer is so simple. Truby, if we lived in a better world, we wouldn't be having this kind. All of this would have already been taken care of, and even without me getting involved. But we live here in the real world.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
mean, think about what does this say about our community in the 21st century if something this important is being ignored by the people who have the leadership positions, except for Basil Russo. And I hope that as we move along, his support and the Conference of Presidents will become more important. But again, I'm still focused on Frank Bisignano and his all important.
Right.
All he has to do is say, I support this. He doesn't have to do anything else. I'll take care of the rest of it.
He's done some nice things for Bowling Green too, Frank Verrazzano.
Oh, that's the other thing. Yes, he was at the June 2nd, Italy Republic Day flag raising. Yes, he was praising me. But, you know, that's wonderful for somebody to praise you. But when it's completely empty, it's just the opposite.
Well, with the for Sicilian Americans too, they need to come on board of this because the sculptor was Sicilian, and he's a wonderful sculptor. Yeah, and it's very important that we support that also.
And again, the monument itself is powerful. It is brilliantly designed. It really, when you see it, you stand in front of it, it makes a great impression on anyone.
People need to realize too, the city did not pay for the statue. The Italian Americans paid for the statue.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. Just the opposite.
Right,
they were trying to make Verrazzano disappear as though he didn't exist. And Italian Americans, that they had no. Of course, they knew that Verrazzano. I mean, that was clearly documented. But yet they celebrated in 1909 the 300th anniversary of Henry Hudson discovering New York City. Complete lie.
What can we do to help, and what can the Italian American community do for you to try and get people to?
Well, I have no doubt, like with everything else in life, if what you're doing and others will do, and particularly contact the leadership of Columbus Citizens Foundation and NIAF and pointedly ask them, do you or do you not support the temporary movement of the Verrazzano management across the street to Bowling Green? I think if they hear from enough people, if they look at your video, I think, because think about the alternative. Can you imagine what does that say about our Italian community when the so-called leadership basically ignores the 500th anniversary of one of the most, if not the most important day in Italian American history of all time? I mean, what would that say about us? And what does that say to the rest of the world and to the rest of the United? And what does it say to politicians? They can't even get together and have a major celebration for their 500th anniversary. In fact, if we have that major celebration, Truby, I believe the governor, the mayor, even will show up. All right, all kinds of people.
Yeah, I agree.
We will have them there, and at that point, them standing up and making these great speeches about the Italian American community.
You're right. We're fighting for the Columbus monuments. We got to fight for the other monuments also. We got to fight for the other Italian Americans. And in this case, what we're seeing here is it's almost like a disrespect of it in a way, because they got the construction material there. No one can see the statue. And for the 500th anniversary, I mean, I would think that the political leaders would step up and say, hey, folks, listen, this is an important time for the Italian American community, an important time for our city. We want to get that statue out of there and temporarily move it to a nicer place. And
Trudy, an interesting point about that is it has similarities to 1909. If, in fact, there was respect and interest in that statue in the Italian American community in planning this major construction project, part of the plans would have concluded temporarily moving the statue so it was visible and could be seen. There's no mention whatsoever of the statue in the plans. It's like it's meaningless.
Yes.
That while it's in the middle of a construction zone, it is going to be moved anyway at some point. But I believe it has to be moved at some point during the construction process as they raise the level of Battery Park. So at some point, the other irony, it is going to almost definitely going to get moved. Unfortunately, it's not going to get moved to Bowling Green as it should be. It needs to be moved. It should be moved from any normal person's point of view. There is absolutely no objection, none, to moving it out of a construction zone and putting it a couple of 100 yards away.
Well, we'll support you every way we can, and it's really important for the Italian American community in viewing this video, particularly those in New York City, to get on board and support this cause. And all we want to do is temporarily move that statue to another location so that
a few hundred yards away.
200 yards away, we give proper respect, proper tribute to one of the great figures of history. Really, he discovered he discovered America. He discovered what is today New York City, New York Harbor. Without it, we wouldn't be here. Without him, we wouldn't have what we have today, not to pay a proper tribute, because that's important. It's important to elevate the past and celebrate it when it's of particular value to us today.
That's why TRUBY, we have to make this happen. We have to. I mean, the idea, even holding the idea that on April 17th of this year, the 500th anniversary, we cannot have a great celebration, and that includes the monument, is to me totally unacceptable. It would be the ultimate embarrassment for our Italian American community.
Well, Arthur, how can people get in touch with you if they want to talk to you and see and help you in your way?
Art, A-R-T, Piccolo, P-I-C-C-O-L-O at earthlink.net. That's Art Piccolo at earthlink.net. The best phone to use for this purpose is 212-809-4615. 212-809-4615. But the most important thing everyone out there can do is send messages to NIAF, send messages to the Columbus Citizens Foundation, and please be sure to CC me on any of those letters or emails.
It's very important for all of us. So I want to thank you for all your
TRUBY,
work.
one other thing.
Yes.
You have to make sure your schedule is cleared for April 17th.
Absolutely.
Let's assume we're going to have that great celebration.
I wouldn't miss it for the world. It sounds wonderful. It's a great time to be there. Yep. New York City in the springtime. You bet. Absolutely.
Let's hope we have our next Zoom call where we can discuss that this move is being made and the great plans we have for April 17th, 2024.
Well, amen to that. Absolutely. We definitely want to do that. Well, Arthur, I want to thank you very much for joining me with me today, and we'll get this done.
Thank you very much. I look forward to it, sir.
Thank you very much.